If you're watching this video, then you are automatically a learner of music. And so am I. Even as a professional musician, I'm constantly learning new things about music and taking multiple lessons from various teachers every single week. Now, is learning music as simple as signing up for guitar class, showing up to class, doing your practice, and doing your homework, and then waiting for results to appear? Definitely not. There's so much to consider when it comes to choosing the right path for learning music. We're going to discuss the various settings in which we can learn music. And I want you to let me know in the comments which of the 3 learning settings you fall into. Is it institutional, where you are learning music in an institution, be it a music school, a conservatory, a university, etc.? Or number 2, are you learning music from a private teacher? One-on-one lessons, small group lessons with a single teacher, and so on. Or number 3, are you learning in an organic setting? Are you learning music on your own, jamming with friends, listening and emulating and experimenting on your own? Let me know in the comments which of these 3 settings you are currently learning in. Now let's talk about an ideal learning setting. So is there one setting that is ideal? Now you might immediately think, well, it's best to learn in an institution. What with an entire curriculum planned, an array of teachers to learn from, and a range of facilities to maximize your musical growth. Well, if that were true, then how do we explain the vast numbers of excellent musicians who never attended music school? Or to take it further, how is it that certain musical cultures have no such form of institutionalized learning, yet boast such a large number of masterful musicians? Such cultures include Andean flute music and Mongolian throat singing, among many others. Now, what this points at is that there are pros and cons to each learning setting. It also suggests that each musical style might be better suited to one particular learning setting. So we're going to delve a little deeper into each of these 3 learning settings, starting with number 1, institutional learning. When you enroll into a music school, conservatory, or university, you are placing yourself in a very structured and atomized learning environment. Atomized learning, as opposed to holistic learning, means that the music is broken down into its individual components and taught separately first, and later fitted together to create the musical whole. So think of attending a class on the use of a specific chord, say the dominant 7th chord, and thereafter you will receive assignments to use this chord, perhaps compose a piece of music around it, and then perform it with your classmates. You would then repeat the process for the next topic, say melodic minor scales or songwriting practices. And while this is a great approach for a very progressive learning methodology, the disjointed manner in which the topics are taught can sometimes be a hindrance to your musical comprehension of the musical whole. It takes extra effort, after all, to join the dots together. So institutionalized learning is very prevalent in Western classical music, as well as other Western popular styles such as jazz and pop music. For genres such as rock, you don't find rock music institutions very often, and the many iconic rock artists that you hear about never even stepped foot into a music university. So now we're going to talk about the second setting in which you can learn music, which is private learning. Perhaps this is the most prevalent and accessible form of learning, which is through a private teacher. So should you decide to learn directly from one teacher, you are essentially entrusting your musical growth into his or her hands. Therefore, you need to be very selective in who you choose to learn from. Why? Because even the best intentioned teacher will be limited by what he or she knows. You can't teach something you don't know. and nobody knows everything. Hence, you will be picking up your teacher's stylistic musical traits, preferences, repertory, and knowledge base. And this could be a beautiful thing. If you love the music your teacher makes, you're on a great path to learning the inside outs of that music making process. Now, you shouldn't aim, of course, to be a carbon copy of your teacher, but rather to learn their best practices and adapt them to your own personal style. While this is my personal favorite method of learning, and I'm learning many musics in this manner, it also has its risks. Obviously, along with the great aspects of your teacher's music making process, you're also at a risk of taking on his or her shortcomings. And mind you, even the greatest masterful musicians have shortcomings. So, if you are in a private learning setting, you need to be keenly alert of this and decide if you want to blindly follow what your teacher tells you or be willing to respectfully question your teacher with the intention of constructively improving the musical teaching and learning experience for both of you. Alright, let's talk about our third learning setting, organic learning. You may find yourself not inside any music school and not learning from any private teacher, and that could be perfectly fine. There are many amazing self-taught musicians out there, and you could be one of them. However, this organic learning setting is also one of the most self-initiated and, because of that, risky. If you don't have the intrinsic motivation to seek out knowledge for yourself, you can be sure that you won't get very far as a self-taught musician. It's also the most genre-specific. Certain genres simply cannot be learned effectively in this manner. Many classical music traditions such as Western classical music and Indian classical music require extremely nuanced and specific skill sets. To attempt to pick up these skills from simply watching and imitating would be very, very challenging, and it would be nearly impossible to become an established classical musician this way. Now, on the other hand, genres such as rock music and blues and many folk music traditions can be learned in an organic, self-taught manner. These musics were originally developed without teachers and institutions, and many still remain this way. This does not mean that the music is aesthetically inferior, but that the organic development of the style has made it more accessible to self-initiated learning. So then, which learning setting is the best? Well, it depends on many factors. Are you an intrinsically motivated learner? If yes, you'd be able to learn on your own if you so desire. What style of music do you want to learn? If it's Western classical music, you'd most likely want to enroll in an institution or at least study under a reliable private teacher. Do you want to follow after a very specific style within a particular musical tradition? For example, percussive fingerstyle guitar. Then, you'd best find a specific teacher who specializes in that style. Remember, the main responsibility in your music journey, your music learning journey, is you and not your teacher. So I want you to share in the comments which learning setting you are in and which one would be ideal for where you are right now in your learning journey. So until next time, I will see you again. Goodbye.